There's something that happens when a black woman achieves success and especially power. Some people feel the need to humiliate her. We've seen it in our own lives with our mothers, wives, sisters, friends, leaders who have achieved success. They have to overcome this on the way. Trump clowns say that Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, even though she was the Attorney General of California, the largest population state in the U.S., elected to the United States Senate, served on Senate committees, elected Vice President of the United States, and cast tie-breaking votes as President of the Senate. They say she's inexperienced, she's not black,
Being honest, in my opinion, the Democrats have really got to switch up gears. All right? The days of, Michelle Obama once said, when they go low, we go high. That's over. There's some school of thought that if the pig is in the mud, you don't get down and wrestle with the pig. I got a totally different opinion on that. The Democrats can't just sit by and let the former liar be like a pig. Yeah? Because, no. The language used today on this Fox and Friends interview is not the sort of language you would expect from somebody who wants to be a president of the United States of America and is the senior figure within a political party. And it's quite obvious why the likes of Lauren Boebert, Marjorie Taylor Greene, why they say garbage, why they get away with it. When you have, I'm going to use that word garbage, you have a former president using language which is just so disrespectful, it is untrue. But at Fox, they find it funny. Somebody, in fact, I had 2 comments the other day. I don't want to hear about Fox, blah, blah, blah. No, we are going to put a light and literally expose Fox every single day. Ignoring them is not the answer. They find it funny that Trump calls a future president garbage. Kamala Harris is not garbage in any way, shape, or form. Vice president, and also a former attorney general. She has worked her position. If they don't fight back, it's setting a precedent, kind of like, oh, well, we can say what they like. And if he's saying that about her in public, I dread to think what he says in private. It's got to be called out. Those at Fox have got to be called out. Who the hell are these people anyway? Why are they so important? Just because they're on a cable news station doesn't mean they're allowed to set the agenda, set the line of what's right and what's wrong. Every single day they spread SHIT and people say, oh, it's just Fox. We have to call it out. Exactly the same with people on social media. It is a form of bullying, a form of hate, and just the worst possible. I mean, he was just full of shite today. Shite.
Kamala Harris has given 2 speeches now that she's the candidate, and she's going, they're almost identical speeches. This is what she's doing. She's going after you this way. Watch.
Before I was elected vice president, before I was elected United States Senator, I was elected Attorney General of the state of California, and I was a courtroom prosecutor before then. I took on perpetrators of all kinds. Predators who abused women, fraudsters who ripped off consumers, cheaters who broke the rules for their own gain. So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. And in this campaign, I promise you, I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week.
As the attack, what's the retort?
Well, I think it's disgusting, and I get a kick out of one thing. They say, sir, be nice. You just got hit with a bullet. Maybe he's changed. Be nice. And I'd love to be nice, but I'm dealing against real garbage. When you hear that, they've weaponized the justice system against me. They've indicted me 4 times. They've pushed other lawsuits onto me. It's never happened in this country. This is like a third world country, what they've done, a banana republic. Every single court case that I have is pushed on by them. They've taken the Justice Department, used local DAs, and used local attorney generals. Every single case I have, and I just won the big one in Florida, that Biden didn't win. What happened to Biden is they called him incompetent. He can run for president, but he's incompetent to represent himself in court. But just so you know, they push all these cases on me. They're the ones that started. And then they say, I'm a prosecutor. He's a criminal. They're the ones. Every case is started by them. And I'm winning the cases. But every case, and the big one I just won in Florida was just thrown out by a brilliant judge, to be honest with you.
Eileen Cannon.
And it's disgraceful. It's disgraceful that they can do this. It's called weaponization, and it does happen in other countries.
So, Mr. President,
but does it get under your skin?
It's never happened in this country before.
Does that get under your skin when those comments are made? Because that's what they're meant to do.
It's not a question of getting under your skin. You fight back. I fought back, I think, very valiantly.
I'm serious. The Dems have got to come at the Republican Party, at the Trump train from every single angle. All of those who have big followings that post all the time, have somebody fact-checking as they post, have somebody replying as they post. Every single time there's a radio interview or something, have somebody ready to jump on that radio station's phone in. Every single time there's a TV appearance, have somebody clipping it, whether it's in Kentucky, whether it's in Miami. Be on the case. All right? They can't keep on letting somebody from the Republican Party like Marjorie Taylor Greene or somebody on Fox set the agenda. Get ahead of them. Use humour. Use facts. Use truth. They are rattled. They really are rattled. J.D. Vance can't stand Trump. Hasn't changed his opinion. Is anything for power. So the divisions. Forget about CNN, by the way. CNN is nobody's friend. There may be a couple of individuals that react. And if you're one of these people watching saying, oh, I don't want you playing Fox there, blah, blah, that you're part of the problem. Ignoring it is not the solution. Challenge it is the solution. Yes, there are people who watch Fox non-stop. They're not suddenly going to change their opinion, but the conversation can be affected. These clowns on Fox, why is nobody ever stopping them in the street? Harassing them, asking them the questions. You're allowed to ask somebody a question. Why has Jesse Waters never been told to his face, well, you're a bit of a liar? Not in an aggressive way, but he puts it out there. Why has nobody actually ever said, oh, you're setting an example, didn't you? Did you leave your wife while you're having an affair? At the end of the day, you have somebody who is very frail, overweight, has one foot in the grave, cheats on his wife, pays money to porn stars, who wants to be president, and is a criminal. Those are the facts. But more important...
So hear me when I say, I know Donald Trump's type. And in this campaign, I promise you, I will proudly put my record against his any day of the week.
As the attack, what's the retort?
Well, I think it's disgusting, and I get a kick out of one thing. They say, sir, be nice. You just got hit with a bullet. Maybe he's changed. Be nice. And I'd love to be nice, but I'm dealing against real garbage. When you hear that, they've weaponized the justice system against me.
Kamala Harris is not only the border czar, she is also the czar of chaos. And her policies have destroyed American. I yield.
This is where it's really important, and this is why we do highlight Fox. So, Kamala Harris will go on and maybe she will talk about fiscal policies in terms of, I don't know, how much money should go towards public education, how much money should be spent on infrastructure, foreign policy. When have you heard Trump talk finance? I don't mean, build a building, but actually real, proper, intrinsic details on finance. When have you ever heard him sit down and talk about education curriculums? When have you heard him talk on foreign policy? Today he's asked on Fox, the Middle East situation. He's saying, it'll be sorted out once he gets in power. Rubbish. The guy couldn't even speak about the Middle East without a teleprompter for 5 minutes. Somebody should say to him next time, Mr. President, Mr. Don Shitsy Pantsy, whatever name you like, you've got 5 minutes. Talk about your foreign policy. We know you don't like NATO. What are your solutions? Tell us the historical relationship between NATO and the US. Tell us exactly who you would have around the table when it comes to the Middle East, and what would your opening conversation be? Make him answer the questions. He wants to talk all the tittle-tattle, all the rubbish. That's why he says things like garbage. It's because it is a distraction. It is getting away from the conversation. It allows talk radio. It allows those on blue tick Twitter or social media, the commentators. It gives them something to talk about which isn't about policy. Never about the money in your pocket. Never about your health bills. or general bills. Never, never, never. The Democrats have got to step a gear up.
The campaign trail. In his first big rally since Biden exited the race, Trump riled up his supporters with angry rhetoric focused, of course, on Vice President Kamala Harris, calling her a liar and an ultra-radical liberal. He is standing by that divisive tone. Here's what the former president and Republican nominee said just moments ago.
She's a San Francisco radical. She's actually, I think, in a way, a much worse candidate. She's the most radical person probably that we've had in office, let alone the office of the presidency. I'd love to be nice, but I'm dealing against real garbage.
Wow. CNN's Steve Contorno joins me now. I think that might be the first time we've heard a presidential candidate call another American garbage. Give us some sense. This sounds like this is the way things are going.
Absolutely, Sarah. And let's be clear, Nice Trump only lasted about 30 minutes into his convention speech, and it's certainly Nice Trump did not make the stage last night in North Carolina. Instead, he was on the attack from almost the moment he took that stage. Listen to what he had to say about his potential new opponent, Vice President Harris.
So now they bring in this one who's worse than him. She's worse than him. Because he's a fake liberal. You know, he wasn't that liberal. He was fake. She's a real liberal. She really is a real liberal. She's much worse than him. And when you're dealing with these people, they're very dangerous people. When you're dealing with them, you can't be too nice. You really can't be. So if you don't mind, I'm not going to be nice. Is that okay?
From there, he had launched a litany of attacks against Harris, her record, tying her to the Biden administration, really testing out how they intend to define Harris in the coming weeks. And as Jeff said, that opportunity for the Trump campaign to give their first impression of Harris to the American people is now underway. And it is a frantic sprint by the Trump campaign because they know this campaign has changed dramatically in the past week. They have built a campaign to go up against an unpopular 81-year-old incumbent. Well, now they have a much more dynamic, a much more unknown opponent in Vice President Harris, someone who potentially could appeal to voters that Joe Biden was having trouble keeping in the Democratic tent. And so now you are seeing the first and early attempts by the Trump campaign to define Harris. One of the more interesting criticisms was that he took a shot at Harris for not appearing in Washington for the Israeli Prime Minister's address to the Congress. He actually said she's, quote, totally against the Jewish people. That's a remarkable statement given that her own husband is Jewish, and also his vice presidential nominee also did not appear at that speech either, Sarah. But you're seeing these attacks come out. They will be sharpened in the coming weeks, and they will not end until November.
All right, Steve Contorno, things are going to get nasty. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Kate?
Southwest Airlines announcing major changes today.
When you go to the polls in this country as a parent, you should have more power. You should have more of an ability to speak your voice in our democratic republic than people who don't have kids. Let's face the consequences and the reality. If you don't have as much of an investment in the future of this country, maybe you shouldn't get nearly the same voice. Now, people will say, and I'm sure the Atlantic and the Washington Post and all the usual suspects will criticize me about this in the coming days. Well, doesn't this mean that non-parents don't have as much of a voice as parents? Doesn't this mean that parents get a bigger say in how our democracy functions? Yes, absolutely.
Listen, there is so much excitement in the Democratic Party right now. I have not seen this much mobilization and energy in such a short window of time. Probably not since, the Obama convention time, right? When people saw him in that stadium, and there was so much energy across the party. But we see that right now in the Democratic Party. And it's amazing. And we're just trying to, this is the great thing. for the last 3.5 years, thanks to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, we've been able to rebuild all of the parties in our 50 states so that they can now accommodate this energy and focus this energy into doing the grassroots activities that are necessary to win these close elections. And that's what we're going to do. And that's a stark contrast to the Republican Party that doesn't have any field offices, that don't have any ground game. They're just hoarding money, I guess, to pay Donald Trump's legal bills.
Today, we face a choice between two very different visions for our nation. One focused on the future, and the other focused on the past. And we are fighting for the future. And in our vision of the future, we see a place where every person has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. A future where no child has to grow up in poverty, where every senior can retire with dignity, and where every worker has the freedom to join a union. We see a future with affordable health care, affordable child care, and paid leave, not for some, but for all. We see a future where every student has the support and the resources they need to thrive, and a future where no teacher has to struggle with the burden of student loan debt. So, as an example, our administration has forgiven student loan debt for nearly 5 million Americans, and twice as much for our public servants, including our teachers. We see a future where every student has the support and the resources they need to thrive, and a future where no teacher has to struggle with the burden of student loan debt. So, as an example, our administration has forgiven student loan debt for nearly 5 million Americans, and twice as much for our public servants, including our teachers. Teachers like Tanya Cabeza, who I met recently in Philadelphia. Tanya was first in her family to go to college, and she had been, like many, paying off her student loans for 20 years. And she told me, she was like, look, I at many times wondered, would I have to leave this profession I love to just be able to pay my bills? But I did it, but I didn't leave because I love what I do and I understand the importance. But making decisions then about what she could afford in terms of her daily obligations and dealing with these loans. And after 20 years, she still owed $40,000 in student loans. And we forgave it all. When she learned, she told me, she said when she learned that her loans had been forgiven, she said, well, me and my children knew our lives had changed, and we were just dancing.